Welcome to the 2024 Sideliners Hoover High School Summa Scholar Celebration. My name is Kim Solaski. I'm a proud educator at Hoover High School, and it is my absolute pleasure to serve as your Mistress of Ceremonies tonight. Not only as we come together to celebrate academic excellence, but also to revel in the sheer tenacity, intellect, and undeniable swagger that this room brings tonight. But before we get to the reveling, there are many people we would like to thank. First, we cannot thank the Hoover Sideliners organization enough for their generous financial support that makes this entire evening possible. As many of you may know, the Hoover Sideliners are a huge Hoover supporter. They support so many of the programs at Hoover High School in the arts, athletics, and academics. Tonight, we have the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Dave Kokenauer and Mrs. Lori Kokenauer of the Sideliners. If they would like to stand, I'm so sorry. Thank you to the Kokenauers and your membership for all that you do to support our schools and to make our Viking community awesome. Next, we would like to thank the Summa committee, composed entirely of volunteer teachers, administrators, bus drivers, school counselors. These amazing humans spend countless hours making this evening so perfect for y'all. So if you're a committee member here this evening, if you would please stand when I say your name and be recognized. Crystal Ake, Veronica Baca-Bernal, Sean Bilker, Josh Branch, Rashmi Chopra, Holly Donald, Tammy Einen, Tiffany Furlong, Brian Girdlestone, Patty Hare, Henry Householder, Lindsay Johnson, Gretchen Leckie-Ewing, Kelly Lenhart, Mike Johnson, Amy Myers, Tom Oakes, Rochelle Ogilvie, Susan Schilling, Nicole Snyder, Taylor Sowers, Lindsay Talkington, Amy Taylor, Pat Topper, Robert White, Adam Weil, Tom Wilson, and Patsy Williams. We can go ahead and give them a round of applause, please. Thanks also to Mrs. Lindsay Talkington and the Career Exploration students for their assistance in organizing and delivering the beautiful memory books that you have with you tonight. Tonight's celebration is being recorded by Hoover's award-winning video productions program and will be released on YouTube in the coming weeks. Thank you to the students and their instructors, Mr. Tom Wilson and Mr. Josh Branch. We're so lucky to have this program at Hoover High School. Thank you to Hoover High School Principal Mr. Eric Bornstein for your support and promotion of the Summa Scholar program. And finally, if we could direct our attention to Mrs. Gretchen Leckie-Ewing right here, as well as Mr. Adam Weil in the back of the room. Folks, these people are something else. I'm going to tell you what, they are incredible. Thank you for your many hours of work in coordinating tonight's event and making it so special for these Summa students, their families, and their honored guests. We are so grateful for you. Please take note, as you read from your memory book shared with you today, each scholar has written their personal reflection of their selected educators. We also hope you enjoy their biographies and thoughtful comments that each of them have written. To begin this evening's celebration and get our revel on, we welcome North Canton City Schools Superintendent, Mr. Jeff Wendorf, to offer a few remarks.
I heard some great words, tenacity and tenacious and everything else in high esteem, but the best word is something else. Not only are these two something else, but so are each of you. Whether you're a student, a parent, faculty, a board member. A lot of our boards here tonight, please stand. Dr. Bob Roden, Alyssa Plackus, Lindsay Wyckoff, Andrea Zarko is here. Is Jessica here? I don't know if she's here or not, if I missed her. Thank the board for their direction. This has been going on for a number of years. 66 Summa Scholars tonight, and wow, 66 students who have shown excellence, shown tenacity, perseverance, grit, and congratulations. We're proud of you. We hope that you continue in your academic success as a well-rounded student. And whatever your path takes, I'm sure you'll be fully supported. Your parents are proud of you. Our staff is proud of you, and the administration for sure, and our whole community is proud of you for what you've done and where you're going in your representation of your family, your community, and your high school. Enjoy tonight. Congratulations to all, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Wendorf. All right, as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight, of course, my first thing to go to was I had to be funny. Usually doesn't work out for me, but that's okay. And I was gonna talk about how Taylor Swift tells us to shake it off, and hey, maybe I'd write a little song for all the Swifties out there. Aren't you guys glad I didn't go with that plan? All right, well, I will tell you, from the absence of many laughters, I'll concur and take solace in that decision. It's a lot of pressure, you know. This is definitely not your average room. I listened to a few of my favorite podcasts to get some inspiration, immediately became overwhelmed. And so I went to the place where most people go to find inspiration and the answers to the universe. It was Reels. I know you youngsters thought I was gonna stake my claim to TikTok, but the real answer to that is I'm really old and I was afraid I'd never find my way out. But anyway, it was that moment that brought me to one of your own Summa Scholars that sit in this room tonight. Don't ever try to figure out that correlation, because truly it only makes sense in my own head. Nevertheless, come with me to Hoover High School's great gymnasium. I stood in a gym packed full of the freshman class, roughly 330 of them. All eyes were facing center court. At center court, you would see a very brave young man who was talking and encouraging the freshman class and telling them to take their shot. He even humbled himself and talked about a time last year when he was given the opportunity to take his own shot to win a game, and he missed. And then a year later, a freshman was given that same opportunity to take a shot and win the game, and he succeeded. What a humbling moment for that young man to share that story with the freshman class as a senior to prove his point, and that he did. Both of them took their shot, right? Very different outcomes, but they both learned and lived and honestly grew from that moment. He also talked about all the people that were in the room that day. How about the people that were there for actually the entire year just to support the freshman class? He talked about them being the Viking community, if you will. He talked about how this Viking community was completely invested in this freshman class, and that they should use these people and that they should lean into them and learn from them. If you are sitting next to or beside or near a Summa Scholar right now, Grant Walker was talking about you. So, Summa Scholars, this is your chance to give a wink, a fist bump, a high five, a hug to whoever you brought here tonight and say thank you for being my community. When I look around this room, I see a lot of incredibly smart young adults who learned how to be brave enough to take their shot. I see hard work, late nights, lots of tears, pride, respect, integrity, failed tests, retakes, more tears, extra work sessions, extra credit projects when you already had a 102, just in case. I see the ability to stay awake for what seems like days. I see brilliance. But what I see most of all in this room, I see grit. A 4-letter word that, if you ask me, is a superpower. It's the secret sauce that turns ordinary students into extraordinary scholars. You are extraordinary scholars. It's the X factor that separates the dreamers from the doers, the procrastinators from the perseverers. Although, I gotta say, I see those of you out there that do your best work in those final hours. That's right. I'm not saying it's easy. It is far from it. Grit's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded while juggling flaming torches. Or buying front row tickets to the Taylor Swift concert with $20 in your bank account 3 days after they went on sale and sold out. You guys know what that's like, right? The thing about grit, though, is it's not about grinding your teeth, dropping your shoulder, and plowing through the wall. It's about embracing your journey, embracing the struggle, embracing the late night study sessions because you have 3 tests and 1 project that's due. It's pursuing greatness and doing it the right way. It's about turning setbacks into stepping stones, failures into fuel, and you know it, obstacles into opportunities. We've all heard that, right? But let's not forget something very important. You belong to the Viking community. You've never had to do this alone. Grit is not a solo act. Rather, it's a team sport or a musical, and you have your whole entire supporting cast of parents, siblings, coaches, advisors, teachers, peers. They're all cheering you on from the sidelines. They're offering words of encouragement, wisdom, and if they're nice, probably a snack or 2. Remember that as you move on and choose your next supporting cast. So, to all the Summa scholars gathered here today, I say this: embrace the grit and wear that sucker like a badge of honor, and let it propel you to even greater heights of achievement, whatever that looks like for you. And you know that person that you needed along the way? The one who told you that you could do it? The one that told you that you were strong enough and brave enough and wise enough? Be that person. Be that person for you and be that person for everyone else. And when life tries to knock you down, and trust me, it will, just remember to shake it off. But more importantly, remember that even if you fall or miss that shot, it doesn't mean that you have to stay on the ground. And if that shot that you miss is the game-winning point, that doesn't define who you are. It just shows people that you were brave enough to try. It makes you stronger and wiser so that you can do it again next time. But you guys already know that. Grit brought you here. Congratulations, Scholar, on your remarkable achievements. May your grit be as unbreakable as a Swifty's passion, and may you always carry with you the lessons that you've learned as a Hoover Viking. And always, always take the shot. Now, to begin our presentation of Summa Scholars, several of our staff members will begin sharing comments made by the parents of our students. Summa Scholars, as soon as you hear your name announced by the speaker, please make your way to the opposite end of the podium, and then you're going to have the opportunity to give a brief thank you to your parents and honored guests. At the end of the presentations, Mr. Borenstein will offer a few brief closing remarks. Immediately following his remarks, there will be a Summa Scholar group photo taken right over here underneath that screen. Everyone good on that? Awesome. All right, to begin the presentations of Summa Scholars, I would like to present to you this evening Mrs. Tiffany Furlong.
We'll hold our applause until after each student speaks so that you're not clapping over and over. Our first student, Emerson Snodgrass. Emerson has exceeded academic expectations. It wasn't always easy, but she never gave up and always persevered. Emerson Snodgrass.
I'd like to thank Mrs. Camel for always being very kind and supportive. I would like to thank Mr. Motz for just being an amazing teacher, and I would like to thank my family for always being there for me. Thank you.
Carter Black. Carter shows dedication in all that he does and always considers others when making decisions. Carter Black.
I'd like to thank my family for always being there for me. I'd like to thank Mr. Motz for making high school fun. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Arundale for being the best elementary teacher that anyone can have.
Hannah Spangler. Hannah is a source of joy and inspiration. Her kindness, bright smile, and caring attitude make every day brighter. Hannah Spangler.
I'd like to thank my family for always pushing me to do my best. I'd like to thank Mr. Jankar for inspiring me to go into the medical field. And I'd also like to thank Mrs. Harder for always being so kind and supportive. Thank you.
Cameron Cooney. Cameron is someone who is loyal and hardworking, making her parents proud every day. Cameron Cooney.
First, I would like to say how much I love and appreciate my parents for always being there to support me. Whether it's for school or for sports, they're always there to cheer me on. I would also like to thank Dr. Collis for making me push myself and also believing in me that I could succeed. And lastly, I would like to thank Mr. Kitchen for making math easier for me to understand and for making my time at the middle school more enjoyable. Thank you.
Jacob Craig. Jacob has worked hard, both in the classroom and on the track. His parents are excited to see where his future takes him. Jacob Craig.
I'd like to thank my parents for helping me get here, Miss Hood for making me fall in love with math, and Mr. Ackerman for always helping me prepare for races. Thank you.
Riley Wolf. Riley is a dedicated student, loyal friend, and beautiful daughter. Her parents can't wait to see the great things she achieves in life. Riley Wolf.
First, I would like to thank my parents and my sister for always supporting me throughout my academic career. And then I would like to thank Mr. Halls for making sure that we not only learned in his class, but we had a fun time doing it. And then finally, I would like to thank Ms. Maxwell for encouraging me to pursue a career in engineering, not only through our courses of engineering at the school, but our Women in Engineering Club.
Sophia Blondheim. Sophia is an intelligent and witty young girl who has unlimited potential and a successful future ahead of her. Sophia Blondheim.
I'd like to thank my mom and dad for all that they've done for me. I'd also like to thank Mr. Jankar for helping me to know what I wanted to do in the medical field. And I'd like to thank Mr. Plazik for always making his classroom a fun learning experience. Thank you.
Ian Busto. Ian is pleasant with a delightful personality. He is self-motivated and ambitious. He is always placing others' needs before himself. Ian Busto.
I know I'm gonna mess this up, so I brought a card. Yep. I want to thank Mr. Varn for instilling discipline, hard work, and effort into me. I also want to thank Mrs. Varn for instilling kindness and empathy for others. I should also thank my parents. You're not forgotten.
Layla Tully. Layla is driven, compassionate, and sincere. Layla Tully.
Hi, I'd like to thank my mother for always being there for me. I'd also like to thank Dr. College for always being patient with all my questions. And finally, I'd like to thank Ms. Dalton for making math actually fun for once.
Lila Miller. Lila is caring, smart, and hardworking. She has a bright future ahead of her. Lila Miller.
I'd like to thank Mr. Jankar for inspiring me to pursue a career in nursing. I'd like to thank Mrs. Sahara for teaching me that learning can be fun, and I'd like to thank my parents for always supporting me.
Gavin McKinnon. Gavin, a conscientious young man whose passion for learning started in kindergarten, has excelled in every academic endeavor, conquered every challenge, and has never even brought home a B. Gavin McKinnon.
I'd like to thank my parents for all their unconditional love and support, and Mr. Motz for making his classroom the most fun and enjoyable place at Hoover, and Mrs. Perez for instilling a deep passion for learning within myself.
And our next presenter is Mrs. Lindsay Johnson.
Allison Malamasi. Allison is a kind, hardworking student who gives 110% effort in her activities, and these qualities will bring her much success in life. Allison Malamasi.
Hi, I'd like to thank my parents for always supporting me and loving me in everything that I do. I'd like to thank Mrs. Johnson for sparking an interest in exploring other cultures, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Ellis for growing my confidence as both a student and a person. Thank you.
Jocelyn Wabeck. Jocelyn has a kind heart and empathy for others. Her compassionate nature shines through in all she does, and her talent shines brightly whenever she performs on stage. Jocelyn Wabeck.
I would like to thank my parents for always motivating me. I would like to thank Mrs. Ray for teaching me the true meaning of kindness and patience. And I would like to thank Mr. Motz for sparking my passion of politics and law. Thank you.
Stephen Zumbarakis. Stephen is a respectful, intelligent young man, full of compassion for family and zest for life. Stephen Zumbarakis.
I'd like to thank my parents for their constant love and support throughout my life. I'd like to thank Mr. Plazik for making his learning environment so engaging. And I'd like to thank Ms. Waller for all the time she's put into my education throughout middle school and elementary school.
Olivia Fannenschmidt. Olivia is extremely intelligent and proves she's not afraid to push herself to achieve her goals, showing resilience, determination, and ambition. Olivia Fannenschmidt.
I'd like to thank my family for all of their love and support, and I'd like to thank Senora Johnson for my passion in Spanish and education, and I'd like to thank Ms. Thomas for her passion in teaching and growing my passion for teaching.
Brooke Radcliffe. Brooke has excelled in both academics and athletics. Although these two are important, her leadership and love for others are what make her unique. Brooke Radcliffe.
I would like to thank my parents for always supporting me, Coach Vaughn for getting me through everything through swimming, and Mr. Seppi for being a warm, welcoming face at the middle school.
Xavier Alshouse. Xavier is an accomplished student athlete whose ability to lead others has allowed him to become swim team captain and Summa scholar. Xavier Alshouse.
I'd like to thank my parents for their constant support, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Angeli for all she does for her students. And I'd like to thank Mr. Kreis for a great last year of Hoover High School math.
Callista Leghart. Callista has always been caring, smart, driven, and inquisitive. Her determination to push herself and fully understand anything she is committed to do will drive her success to the next level. Callista Leghart.
First, I'd like to thank my parents for always encouraging and supporting me. Next, I'd like to thank Mr. Plazik for his patience and inspiring me to go into the medical field. And lastly, I'd like to thank Mr. Clark for his helpfulness, kindness, and making his classroom such a fun environment.
Reagan Jankowski. Reagan is a confident, hardworking, talented, and engaging young woman who sets and achieves goals, but at the same time always makes time for her family and friends. Reagan Jankowski.
I'd like to thank my family for always supporting me and showing me that hard work pays off. And I'd like to thank Dr. Collis for helping me decide what I want to do with my future, and Mrs. Fleschauer for creating such a fun environment and for always being so kind.
Ayush Priyadarshi. Ayush is an amazing kid and respected high school senior. He loves to help anyone in need, volunteers his time to the community, and is a very hardworking student. Ayush Priyadarshi.
First, I'd like to thank my parents for their constant love and support. I wouldn't be where I am without them. I'd then like to thank Mr. Ackerman for making math my favorite subject at high school through his teachings and his guidance. And then finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Wood for helping me through AP Chem no matter what struggles came up.
Patience Wood. Patience exemplifies her name and is the first to offer a helping hand or kind word. She is an intentional student seeking to make this world a better place. Patience Wood.
I'd like to thank all my educators who have led me to be the student I am today. First off, I'd like to thank Mrs. Covington for pushing me to realize my future aspirations. And I'd like to thank my parents, my mom, for always encouraging me, and my dad, who is my most vital educator.
Lauren Pellegrino. Lauren exhibits many of the qualities common to firstborn children. She's responsible, caring, and a natural leader. Her creative talents are what make her shine. Lauren Pellegrino.
First, I would like to thank both of my parents for constantly supporting and encouraging me, and also my two educators, Mrs. Varn, for helping me find my love of music, and Mrs. Wackerly for giving me all the amazing opportunities I've had in the broadcast journalism program.
And our next speaker will be Mr. Sean Boker.
Can everybody hear me? Students will find some humor in that. Congratulations, Summa scholars, parents. Our next up, Lily Tula. Lily is a kind-hearted, thoughtful, and responsible young lady who quietly pursues challenges in leadership. She is hardworking, and her best qualities are her genuine compassion and care for others.
First, I would like to thank my parents for supporting me in everything that I've pursued throughout my high school education. I would like to thank Mr. Hulse for being a foundational part of my math education and for helping me develop critical thinking skills I've used throughout my education. I would like to thank Dr. Collis for helping me learn resilience and that failure is not the end of the world. I would also like to thank all of the educators that I've had that have positively impacted my educational career. Thank you.
Britton Whitaker. Britton is a young man who is inquisitive, eager to learn, and never hesitant to lend a helping hand.
I would like to first thank my parents for all they've done to support me both inside and outside of school and all of my activities. I'd like to thank Dr. Collis for introducing me to what hard classes are and showing me that I can get through them as long as I try hard enough. And I'd like to thank Mr. Motz for his fun classroom and making education more fun.
Annabella Persis. Annabella is a bright, caring, and honest young adult. May her kind heart, loyalty, and ever-present wit follow her during this new journey.
I would like to thank my parents for supporting me in everything that I do, as well as Mrs. Furlong and Miss Margroff for pushing me to be the best version of myself. Thank you.
Kate Baxter. Kate is empathetic, insightful, competitive, and driven to achieve her goals while also helping others achieve theirs. She is a kind and caring daughter, sister, teammate, and friend.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Jankar for inspiring me to pursue a career in nursing. I'd also like to thank Ms. Sheets for shaping my interest in Spanish, and I'd like to thank my parents for their continuous support throughout my education. Thank you.
Joshua Roth. Joshua is a self-motivated and goal-driven learner who leads others by being kind, humble, and quietly confident.
First of all, I'd like to thank my parents for always being there for me. And I would like to thank Mr. Varn for his unwavering dedication in pushing me to excel and for instilling in me the values of leadership, honesty, and integrity. And I'd also like to thank Mrs. Varn for your understanding and consistent support, and you've been my pillars during all my challenges. Thank you.
Braylee Law. Braylee first and foremost loves God, her family, and others. She is hardworking, bright, talented, resilient. She is devoted to serving others and gives 100% to everything she does.
I would first like to thank my family and friends for supporting me through every endeavor I've taken on throughout my academic career. I would like to thank Mrs. Fleschauer for inspiring me to become the avid reader I am, as well as teaching me to strive to do my very best in everything I do. And finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Ackerman for staying after school with me so many times to help me study, as well as teaching me to never give up no matter what happens. Thank you.
Alessandra Sager. Allie is compassionate, caring, joyful, and above all, curious.
I would like to thank my parents, my AP chemistry teacher, Mr. Wood, and my first grade teacher, Mrs. Kennedy, for fostering a love of learning and encouraging me to push myself farther than I thought I could go. Thank you.
Rowan Ellis. Rowan is a remarkably intelligent, creative, and athletic young man with a deep sense of empathy and kindness. His individualistic nature adds charm to his humble and gentle personality.
Firstly, I'd like to thank my family for always pushing me to be the best version of myself. I'd like to thank Mr. Triner for his constant dedication to my success as a person and also as an artist. And I'd like to thank my mom, Mrs. Ellis, for the immeasurable amount of love she's shown me throughout my life.
April St. Clair. April has always been the most creative, motivated, and generous person. Never afraid to be herself, she is bound to do amazing things.
Firstly, I would like to thank my parents for their continuous support. I'd also like to thank Mr. Hinkle for creating such a welcoming learning environment. And finally, thank you, Ms. Stapleton, for being such inspiration for me growing up. Thank you.
Michael Weber. Michael is a kind-hearted, generous, and extremely inquisitive young man, always full of wonder, setting his goals high, and never accepting failure as an option.
First, I'd like to give thanks to all my family, and I'd like to give thanks to Mr. Motz for making such a great classroom environment, and really educating people just outside of what school teaches you. I'd also like to thank Mr. Alkire for helping me pursue my career in engineering and teaching me how to do things the right way. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Miss Patsy Williams.
Ryan Day. Ryan is very confident, intelligent young man, but most impressive is that he does not let any challenge intimidate him. Ryan Day.
I would like to thank my parents for always supporting me. I would like to thank Mrs. Kamishek for always having a fun twist on whatever science topic she was teaching. And I'd like to thank Dr. Calls for somehow making biology interesting.
Ashley Horning. Ashlyn is a hard worker who always gives 100% in all she does. From academics to athletics to friends and family, she is always giving her best. Ashley Horning.
I just want to thank my mom and dad for their constant support through all the years, and to Mr. Plazik and Mrs. Kamishak for inspiring my love for science and pursuing a career in the medical field. Thank you.
Seth Anderson. Seth is intelligent, cool, and pretty funny. Seth Anderson.
I'd like to thank Mr. Alkire for running the Pretty Cool Robotics program, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Geckler for having my favorite class in elementary school.
Anna Bates. Anna is an insightful and caring person whose academic successes are matched by her contribution to her community. She is ambitious, compassionate, and always has a joke up her sleeve. Anna Bates.
I would like to thank my speech coach, Missy Sturtzbaugh, for telling me that I'm not crazy. I'd like to thank my newspaper advisor, Rochelle Ogilvie, for telling me when I am. And my parents would prefer the term exciting, but thank you for telling me that crazy isn't always bad.
Henry Hu. Henry is an erudite, a creative and passion-filled boy. He also likes to make friends and help others generously. Henry Hu.
First, I'd like to thank my parents for motivating me and always believing in me. Thank to Mr. Sowers, my guidance counselor, for being helpful and always a great listener. And I'd like to thank my AP coordinator, gifted coordinator, Mrs. Cooley, for her help every step along the way of my high school journey. Thank you.
Campbell Hollis. Campbell's always been smart. It's no surprise she qualifies for academic honors. What continues to be a surprise is how she gives of herself to help others. Campbell Hollis.
I'd like to thank my parents for instilling a love of learning in me from a young age. I'd like to thank Mr. Chris Marshall for teaching me how to bring creativity into the classroom. And I'd like to thank my advisor, Mrs. Rochelle Ogilvie, for teaching me to have confidence in myself and celebrate my achievements.
Alex Bosky. Alex's hard work and leadership have been instrumental in his academic achievements. His dedication, perseverance, and ability to inspire others make him a remarkable student and role model for his peers. Alex Bosky.
First off, I'd like to thank my parents for always supporting me. I'd like to thank Coach Gamble for being a mentor of mine throughout my entire high school career as a wrestler. And I'd like to thank Mr. Motz for also being a great coach on the wrestling team as well as being a great leader in the classroom.
Aubrey Murphy. Aubrey has always been responsible, motivated, and dedicated to her academics. She is caring and always willing to help. Her kindness and compassion towards others has always been inspiring. Aubrey Murphy.
I would like to thank my mom for always being there to motivate me, and my preschool teacher, Mrs. Fouts, for creating my first positive school experience, and also Mr. Wood for driving me towards my major and making a difficult class easy through his sense of humor. Thank you.
Ethan Miller. Ethan is a motivated self-starter. He is organized and responsible. One of his best qualities is his desire to follow through with anything he commits to. Ethan Miller.
First off, I would like to thank my parents for always supporting me, and I would like to thank Mrs. Johnson for making Spanish fun and engaging, and I'd like to thank Ms. Brown for making musical one of the best memories of my life. Thank you.
Ava Strab. Ava has always been a self-motivated leader. Her work ethic and desire to challenge herself is evident in her academic and athletic achievements. Ava Strab.
First, I'd like to thank my parents for always pushing me to be the best I can be. I'd like to thank Mrs. Sheets for inspiring me to take on challenging courses in high school, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Johnson for being the most caring and selfless teacher I've ever had. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mr. Mike Johnson.
Let's get to the right page here. Alec Pilati. From an early age, Alec was wildly creative and loved the arts. He cherishes his friendships dearly, consistently brightening moments with a ready smile and a witty jest. Alec Pilati.
I'd like to thank my parents for being my parents and everything that comes along with that. I'd like to thank Miss Hood for making math interesting and sharing her awesome taste in music. And I'd like to thank Miss Brown for having confidence in me and making the musical one of the greatest experiences of high school.
Alicia Mahajan. Alicia is kind, generous, academically motivated, and athletic, but the characteristics that define her are her curiosity about the world and the desire to make it better. Alicia Mahajan.
First, I'd like to thank my parents for always inspiring me to do my best. And I'd also like to thank my sister for showing me what I don't want to do. She's pre-med. And I would also like to thank Mrs. Fry for inspiring and nurturing my curiosity at such a young age. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Branch for introducing me to a new passion. Thank you.
Grant Walker. Grant has always had a desire to learn, and he enjoys a wide range of pursuits in the classroom and outside of school. Grant Walker.
First, I'd like to thank my family for always supporting me. I'd like to thank Mr. Motz for his great stories in class, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Fleschauer for always having a smile every day in class.
Bryn Boylan. Bryn has a positive attitude, even when times are tough. She's willing to try new things, and her infectious laugh and smile brighten the lives of those around her. Bryn Boylan.
First, I'd like to thank my parents for their unconditional support over the last 18 years. I'd like to thank Mr. Hulse for always pushing me out of my comfort zone, even when math was not my strong suit, and for helping me get my feet up in North Canton.
And I'd also like to thank Mrs. Furlong for helping me pushing me to always be my best and continuously supporting me with countless letters of recommendation. Thank you.
Jackson Vance. Jackson not only has a gift for learning, but an innate curiosity that will drive him to do great things. Jackson Vance.
I'd like to thank my family for being so supportive, and I'd like to thank Dr. Collis for being a great teacher and making me enjoy learning. And finally, I'd like to thank Coach Schaefer for being a great coach and showing me the value of hard work.
Tiffany Chimier. Tiffany is known for her passion for learning, her amazing athletic abilities, her genuine interest in others, her involvement in numerous extracurricular activities, and above all, her humility. Tiffany Chimier.
I'd first like to thank my parents for the unconditional support that they've given me throughout these years. I'd like to thank Ms. Schilling for driving my passion for French language and the French culture, as well as Mr. Halls for creating a fun work environment while still driving us to be the best students that we can be. Thank you.
Luke Roshak. Luke, being the youngest of 10 children, is a hard worker, committed to giving his best, and yet lighthearted and humorous in showing kindness to others. Luke Roshak.
First, I'd like to thank Coach Schaefer for teaching me what it means to be disciplined, as well as teaching me not to settle for less than what I can be. Next, I'd like to thank Mr. Stutzman for showing me through his example what it means to be a kind and caring person. And most of all, I'd like to thank my parents for the unwavering love and support. Thank you.
Claire Fitzpatrick. Claire has blossomed from a shy little girl who wanted to be Velcro to her parents forever to a fiercely loyal and authentic soul who will change the world with her empathy, class, and determination. Claire Fitzpatrick.
First, I'd like to thank Mrs. Testa for creating such a fun environment and encouraging my love of reading and writing. And I'd like to thank Mr. Rankin for treating me and caring for me as more than just a student, but also as a person. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my parents, my dad for my temper and my mom for my anxiety. Thank you.
Alexandria Heckerman. Alexandria is artistically talented and driven. Her determination, hard work, and creativity have allowed her to excel in her love of dance and learning. Alexandria Heckerman.
I'd first like to thank my parents for their unending support in every area of my life. I'd like to thank Miss Marley Davis for believing in me even when I couldn't understand that the best was yet to come. And I'd like to thank Miss Schilling for being a safe space for me over the past 5 years. Thank you.
Jordan Karikas. Since Jordan was about 3 years old, he showed an interest in learning and a desire to succeed or excel in acquiring new knowledge, always mastering new skills. Jordan Karikas.
Mom and Dad, thank you for always being there for me and showing me love no matter what. Mr. Wood, even though you're not here, thank you for all the guidance you gave me with college and career. And then Mr. Stutzman, thank you for the good memories you've given my brother and I and the kindness you showed my family.
Sadie Carroll. Sadie is not only extremely intelligent, but is also an outstanding athlete with a diverse range of skills, talent, and knowledge, and she excels at everything she attempts. Sadie Carroll.
Good evening. I would first like to thank my parents for being my #1 fans and celebrating every accomplishment I have. I would like to thank Mrs. Sheets for being warm and welcoming and creating my love for Spanish. And finally, Coach Goodpasture for always believing in me and my athletic abilities. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mrs. Kelly Lenhart.
I also come with good news. I'm the last one. So we're almost there. Our first student tonight is Jonas Jacob. Jonas is a respected student leader who demonstrates compassion and integrity and consistently strives for excellence, especially in terms of academics, athletics, and personal growth.
First off, I would like to thank my parents for always being there for me. I'd also like to thank Mrs. Snyder for being an amazing influence on me throughout my time in Hoover's business program. And I'd like to thank Mr. Bond for being a great mentor to me both on the soccer field and in the classroom. Thank you.
Next is Paige Dobbins-Beck. Paige is a hardworking kid who settles for nothing less than perfection and takes everything she does to the next level.
Hi, I'd like to thank Miss Lexi for sticking with me through all these years and always pushing me to be my best. I'd also like to thank Miss Granchine for always being kind and compassionate and truly being a teacher, what a teacher should be. Thank you.
Next, Bobby Baker. Bobby's passion for learning and experiencing new things has guided his journey as a Viking and an academic explorer. With anticipation full of pride, it will be exciting to see where his next adventures take him.
I'd like to thank my mom for always supporting me. I'd like to thank Miss Schilling for inspiring me to pursue a degree in French. And I'd also like to thank Mrs. Billig for being a great academic challenge coach, as well as a great teacher. Thank you.
Raina Kelly. Raina is smart and hardworking, but her compassionate heart and nurturing spirit make her a truly special person. She'll continue using these gifts throughout her life.
Hello. First, I'd like to thank my parents for being so supportive and encouraging. I'd also like to thank my two educators, Mrs. Solosky and Mrs. Moldovan, for impacting my life in a positive way and showing me what it means to be a leader. I'd also like to thank all the other educators in this room for changing our lives for the better. Thank you.
Emmett Summers. Emmett has always been a kid that has made his parents proud, and he is a really good big brother to his siblings.
I'd like to thank my parents for always being supportive, and I'd like to thank Ms. Pursuto for making math fun, and Mr. Alkire for inspiring me to be an engineer.
Allison Free. Allison is a sweet, kind, and caring daughter who has worked hard at achieving her goals.
First, I'd like to thank my parents for all their support and everything they've done for me. I'd like to thank Mr. Heasley for being a great teacher for the past 3 years and for sparking my interest in biology. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Plazik for making the class so memorable and for making it fun to learn. Thank you.
Lily Drea. Lily has always exhibited intelligence, inquisitiveness, and independence, while her persistence at pushing herself to do her best has resulted in successes both in and out of school.
Thank you to my parents who've always supported me both academically and athletically through all that I've intended to do. Miss Hood for having repeatedly made her class the best part of my day, and Mr. Heasley for always believing in me, even if I didn't necessarily believe in myself.
Grace Dannemiller. Grace is an example of resilience, strength, and hard work.
I'd like to thank my parents, Mrs. Ogilvy and Mr. Ackerman, for all the time, effort, and patience that have gotten me where I am.
Madison Vardavis. Maddie is a bright and determined student athlete, but what makes her special is her unwavering optimism combined with her positive, fun-loving approach to life.
First, I would like to thank my parents for all their love and support throughout my entire life. Second, I would like to thank Mr. Halls for teaching me how to find the fun in learning. And lastly, I would like to thank Mr. Ackerman for teaching me to question the things that I learn. Thank you.
Gabe France. Gabe is strong, reserved, and principled, with a great sense of humor and a love of adventure. He is a fiercely loyal friend and is quietly confident in his unwavering values.
I'd like to thank my parents for understanding the long hours and the late nights. I'd like to thank Mr. York for sparking my passion for math, and I'd like to thank Mr. Ackerman for creating a classroom environment where questions were not only welcome, but they were encouraged. Thank you.
And last but not least, Lindsay Crawford. Lindsay is loving, talented, and quick-witted. She brings so much joy to her family, and her parents are excited to see what she will accomplish in the future.
Hello. I'd like to begin by thanking my parents for their continued unconditional love and support and for always pushing me to be the best possible version of myself. I'd like to thank Mrs. Verratti for being one of my biggest supporters even after leaving elementary school. And finally, I'd like to thank Miss Medley for always helping me with my problems, math-related or not. Thank you.
And now, Mr. Pornstein.
Well, good evening. Tonight's ceremony serves as a reminder of the incredible journey our seniors have undertaken. Their unwavering dedication and resilience in the face of challenges have brought them to this remarkable milestone. Let us join together in celebrating their accomplishments and acknowledging the hard work that they have invested in their academic pursuits. As they embark in the next phase of their lives, we extend our heartfelt wishes for continued success and fulfillment in all of their future endeavors. To our distinguished Summa students, your achievements stand as a beacon of inspiration, illuminating the path for others to follow with passion and determination. With confidence, we anticipate the extraordinary accomplishments that lie ahead for each of you. Congratulations once again for all of you, and may your journey be filled with boundless opportunities and profound moments of triumph. Thank you. Just a reminder to the Summa students, at this time you're asked to go to the risers on the right so a group photo may be taken. Have a good evening.